Okay, we're recording.
Oh, is there anything that you have going on? Do you have any like camps coming up, or is there any like cause that you want to promote or anything like that?
Not that I know of right now. There might be a little kids camp back home in my hometown, but nothing too much going on like that that I know
Okay.
of right now.
Yeah, because sometimes when we talk to somebody, they've got charity that they're trying to do something for, or they've got a camp coming up they want to promote. So, okay, we're good.
All right, ready? So it's going to be Fries on the Farm, Roy, riding the Jagger.
Yeah,
Okay, ready?
ready.
Three, two, one. Welcome to Fires on the Farm. Ah, fuck! It's episode. Hold on. Hold on.
Two
Three,
262?
three, two
263.
63. Right? Right.
Right.
Three, three, two. Welcome to episode 263 of Friars on the Farm. I am Donavan, and with me is Roy, and we are joined by old friend of the podcast, Jagger Haynes. Jagger, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Glad to be here. Just been trying to take the off season one day at a time.
Dude, for those of you guys that are listening to the podcast or you're going to watch the YouTube, he's got a better setup than we do. Like I have some scroungy mic. I mean, Roy's got a nice mic, but you're in a little studio there with a crane, with a boom, with the microphone. Right.
Yeah. shout out Brooks Baldwin.
What's his Twitch gamer tag?
I don't think I can tell you that one. I'm not sure.
Okay, we'll
I'm
keep
not
that.
sure if he started streaming.
Okay, we'll keep that private.
Absolutely.
So hey, it's been a while since we talked to you. Let's get right into it and go all the way back to the Tommy John surgery. So you had Tommy John surgery back in what 23, first part of 23.
21.
What how did what happened there? How did you know like you were getting hurt and that you needed to have a deeper look at the injury?
I don't have like a great memory of like the day to day of like how I felt and everything, especially looking back on it 3.5 years later, I guess,
Yeah.
3 years later. Um, at some point, I do remember what I do have a good memory of is during that time we were in extended. I mean, we were in the early parts of extended. Like at this time, that 21 was a weird year, right? So March, big league camp, 20, or then April was minor league camp, and then extended started in May. So we were at some point in May. I had already made maybe 3 or 4 starts once a week, just like a low affiliate ball. Um, and I don't know, man. It was just along the lines of like that third, fourth, or fifth start somewhere in there. That like I mean, it was just one day after one of those starts that I couldn't really throw, and it didn't feel normal, I should say. And then that's where that kind of progressed. Like naturally you're gonna resort to taking like a week or two off at first. Maybe it's just fatigue, like who knows? And then that's whenever you kind of start that whole process, and then you realize, okay, like there's something more serious wrong. Like we're gonna need to do something else to fix this. That's all. It's really all the memory I have of like those days. I've tried to like grow from there, I guess.
Right.
Well, so you were drafted in 2020. So 2020, your high school year got cut short, right? And then because of the shutdown, I'm sure things were just weird as far as
Yeah.
showcases or anything else that you may have intended to do. So did that interrupt your throwing program, your routines, all of that?
No, not the shutdown. I was working with one thing that I was very lucky with at the time was my hometown and the people my age graded ahead of me in high school. In high school, they graduated a year before me, then a couple years all the way up to Seth Frankoff, who was many years older than me. Those guys lived in my hometown, and being from a hometown with 500 people, we all knew each other. We were all friends. More so with the younger guys than Seth at the time because never really spent too much time around somebody in pro ball like that, especially being in high school. And then, like, I mean, it was shut down, and it's kind of that initial period of COVID where we all thought that maybe everything goes back to normal within a few weeks.
Hmm.
Maybe we were just a little naive, whatever you want to call it. we were thinking that there was a chance we might play. At a certain point, there was no chance that we were playing. And during that period, once that kind of shut down, which went by after like 2 or 3 weeks, that's when I really started like training with the guys from college and pro ball. They came home, and that's kind of like there was no interruptions for the throwing program or anything like that. I was blessed to have the people around me to live there, and that's kind of where that was.
Now, Seth was in the Padres organization at the time. Is that how you guys connected, or was it just because you guys were in the same town?
Just the same town, yeah. I'm not gonna lie to you. Before the draft, and really, I never really followed anything Padres. Growing up where I grew up, I mean, I just was like a diehard Atlanta Braves fan.
Yeah.
That's the team of the South. I mean, that's the only person I really knew was kind of Tatis and well, Eric Hosmer, like the big name guys. But other than that, like I mean, they weren't too much of a thought at the time. So I knew McKenzie was with the Padres. That was about it.
So then you have the surgery. You're at the complex. You're rehabbing. Now tell me about Jordan Guerrero. Jordan Guerrero, I had
Yeah.
him on the pod. I was waiting for another player back in Lake Elsinore, and it was getting to be like I was waiting for a while. And this big guy comes out, and he's sitting there, he's kind of looking at his phone. I kind of looked him up. I kind of looked him up on my phone. I'm like, "Hey, Jordan, hey, you got a minute? We'll talk." And I talked to him on the podcast, and and then put him on, and he was a mentor to you during this time, wasn't he?
Without a doubt. He was, I can't give you exacts, but I mean, maybe 26, 27 at the time. And I was 18, 19. And, just kind of like took me under his wing a little bit. Started off as like, just kind of that older person relationship with somebody who's significantly younger, kind of in the same field. And then it progressed into like playing video games together outside of the ballpark, to even just hanging out outside the ballpark. It progressed. It led to off the field, out of the complex situations. Well, not situations, but like like opportunities like that, and it progressed into a friendship essentially. And yeah, he had a much more mature mindset about a lot of things in the game and even in life, than I did at the time. I mean, if we're being honest, I mean, I was 18, 19. I maybe wasn't the most prepared for Tommy John surgery, but I mean, certainly had a lot of good people around me. No question about it.
So with a surgery like that, I mean, your career requires you to stretch your body to the absolute limits, and then this kind of a thing happens. Um, I'm sure there's a lot of doubt that creeps in. There's a lot of I hear people say that the emotional side of that recovery is just as difficult as the physical side. Can you speak to some of the people that may have helped you along, or some of if you encountered anything like that?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I have another really good friend of mine. He was a part of that group in my hometown that I trained with. His name's Trey Benton. He's actually going through a pretty big shoulder surgery right now at the time. He had it this past July, but he was drafted by the Guardians in 2019 as a junior out of college. Really good friend of mine, like literally my neighbor back home. He had Tommy John in maybe July or June before he got drafted by the Guardians. No, maybe May or June. He was like a month or two before the draft, but he had already gone through that process. By the time I had TJ, he was already 2 years into playing. So, or a year into playing. That was his first year back, 21. But still, same point applies. He had already gone through it, and then like I said, Jordan Guerrero, all the PTs, all the staff members, especially a guy of the name of Aaron Wynn Gertzman. He was the minor league physical therapist with the Padres. He was my guy that did my rehab. Then another guy, y'all may know the name Matt Hancock. He was a rehab pitching coordinator with the Padres. Now he's at South Alabama now, I think. I think he left this past year. But yeah, just like I said, like all the people, it takes a village. I mean, was this what they say to raise a kid, right? That it takes a village. It also takes a village to help an 18, 19-year-old go through that entire process mentally and physically. So absolutely.
Yeah, I happened to run into Jordan think not this last spring training, but the spring training prior.
Yeah.
I was up by the office building, and he was coming out, and his arm was in a sling. He just had another surgery. I know
Mhm.
the Padres released him a little bit later on, but I don't know if he's trying to get back into pro ball or if he's moving on to the next phase of his career. But regardless, either way, he's a tremendous human being,
Yeah.
both physically, but got a lot of personality. So wish the best for Jordan wherever he is.
Absolutely. Really great person.
So, so between rehab and then you've pitched now for 2 full seasons, what have you learned about preparation both during the season and off season to try to help build yourself up? Because you've done a pretty good job of working that workload up fairly linearly so far. Knock on wood.
Yeah, absolutely. Knock on wood, need that. Um, I've learned a lot. I would say it goes back to 2020 and 2021, like I mean there was fairly or really no like not much activation besides maybe some bands, right? And then let's fast forward to 2022 in the midst of Tommy John rehab when I'm really back throwing and everything. There's so much activation you're going through because now all these things have been taught to me, and I've kind of processed all this information, and especially as I went on in that rehab process, like I figured out what was going to help me, what wasn't going to help me. I kind of built a routine, and then we could even fast forward to 23. We're kind of just like having a good routine, but if it makes sense that having been in that rehab process for so long, that my routine was a little too much at times, if that makes sense, especially for a full season. So there's like another, like as a counter to it, to having a good routine that you learn in rehab. And then let's fast forward to 24. Like I think this year was when I really put it together, knowing what is enough and what's too much, and kind of finding just a healthy balance of being able to just make sure can I be ready every single Wednesday that I was throwing this year, and we made it.
Yeah, so between last year and this year, as far as I can tell, it doesn't look like you missed any time. It's just you started on time and then you ended, whenever everybody agreed that okay, this is, a good time to call it a year, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I am very proud of that, by the way. I made every single start this year. I think I finished with 22, and that was every single week of the high season. So I am very proud of that. I get caught up in a lot of things, and I know that we'll talk about it here in a minute, but I'll save that for later. But the overall general consensus of my season going into it was to stay healthy all season and get innings. So
Yeah.
that's why I'm very proud of that.
That's right.
Post up, baby.
Availability
Post up.
is
The
the
best
most
ability
important
is
ability.
availability.
Yep.
And kind of going through this season, we talked about it on the pod. We're like, okay, he should, he's never pitched this far before. Okay, he's pitching again. Next week, hey, he hasn't pitched this far before. There he is. I mean, you posted and you kind of, we thought there would be a point where there would be some kind of backing down and, or at
Yeah.
least throwing you a little few, a little less innings. But dude, you posted every single start.
Yeah, the funny thing is that there was never there was never any concern or question about an innings limit. Like that was never really a question. It was just like honestly, I mean, me and obviously you guys know Thomas Eshelman. He started saying it maybe in like June whenever I had already surpassed 25 innings, which didn't take very long. Whenever you make every start and you stay healthy. Once we got to like 40 innings, I mean, it kept being every single week. It was like, all right, we're in uncharted territories. Like, what can we do to get better this week and stay available? So, I mean, that was really the only thing we talked about in terms of workload was like, we've never been here before. How can we stay here and keep going and
Yeah.
progress? And I'm
And
so glad. I'm so thankful that I was able to just kind of like take the leash off, if you will,
Yeah.
that this year. Like I'm very thankful for to many people in that journey. Thomas Eshelman, one of them. Even Mike Daly. Uh, he always was very very confident in me, and it went a long way, especially after the first month of the season, for sure.
yeah, that
Absolutely.
does a lot.
the couple of times we've talked to pitchers, they always mention etch, like the etch. You guys like just he just there's something about him having played so soon after going into coaching that you guys can really just connect with. And it pays off, and it pays off in the season that you've had this year. So real quick, let's reintroduce our listeners to what you throw and what's your arsenal there.
So we got a four-seam fastball. It's more of like a ride run pitch. A lot of arm side run to it, but a lot of carry behind it as well. So I'll say a four-seam fastball. I throw a gyro slider, kind of just like straight down. No, not much of what you would think a slider would be. It kind of just drops straight down. Then obviously kind of found my changeup again this year, so I throw a changeup as well. And then I'm in the process of working on a good sweeper / curveball.
Okay, because I saw that the gyro, and it dropped so much. I'm like, that's a curveball. Like I kept, I'm watching on MILB TV. I'm going, that's a curveball, and that was one of my questions. Was did you start bringing in a curveball during the season?
I played around with two different things. At times I would have the curveball would be working, and I would throw it in games. And there's times where I really couldn't find a spin for it, if we're being honest. Because we're all human. It's no different. Like you can get carried away watching pro sports, NFL, and wondering why guys aren't performing every single week, maybe for fantasy, whatever it may be. But that's the reality of sport. Is like there were some games where I didn't have that pitch, and I would just like have to fiddle around and try and like throw a sweeper. If I can't get it to drop down, like let's try and make it break across the zone as much as possible. And then there's games where I didn't have either of them, and I just had to go with what I had, which would be fastball, slider, changeup.
I've heard people say that what makes a baseball player or an athlete really good isn't how you perform when you're feeling great, but it's how you do when you show up and you don't have it, or you're not feeling all that good, like maybe you're a little ill or something, or like you said, a pitch isn't working and you've got to figure out what to resort to. Um, so you show up, you do your pregame, warm up, bullpen, and that's where you kind of see what you've got that day. So is that between you and your catcher and maybe the pitching coach? How do you guys figure out what your game plan is going to be? Because you already have a plan you figured out in the office, and now you got to make an adjustment on the fly as you're walking up to the mound, right?
Absolutely, we go through the plan before the game in the office, but this is life. It's not always going to go how we draw it up. Like it almost, actually, if we're being honest, it almost never does, and it never will. But like I'll go back to what we've already talked about. Blessed to be around good people, right? Anthony Villar, one of them, a vet, kind of like a veteran mindset in minor league baseball, a leader in the clubhouse, especially a leader for the pitching staff. And even Ethan, even Salas, as the year went on, whenever Villar kind of moved up, he was another just awesome person to work with because they see this stuff, man. They study it. Like all they do, they eat, sleep, and breathe like hitting and just hitters really in the game of baseball. And those guys, they know. So yes, in the bullpens, pregame, beforehand, Villar, Salas, whoever it may have been this year, they can sense and realize what's not there and what's not working. And then that's kind of a conversation that is had whenever you finish up with that bullpen, along with your pitching coach, especially. Ash, we would all talk about it, and we'd be like, "Hey, let's just go out there and try and get it done." Like, the stuff's good enough. If it's not there, let's rely on what's good.
Yeah, and a lot of times I would see them come out to you, when particularly struggling, kind of to go out there, settle you down. What are they going? What are they talking about when they come out to visit the mound? They're like, "Hey, you're not finishing your pitch," or "Hey, you're starting to drift," or are you just like, "Hey," are they just giving you time to kind of recoup?
Yes and no. Definitely. There's some sense of it where you're kind of slowing the game down a little bit. The pitching coach or the manager, they're actively trying to slow it down. Just like things are starting to spiral out of control. Like let's take a moment. But I think in those moments, which I had a few of them this year, they were definitely there, and it became an issue towards the end of the season. But once again, like the overall idea was kind of all up here on the mental side of it. It was never performance because it's like you said. It'd be 3 innings, 4 innings of good baseball, and then it's like 1 inning, right? I think I was kind of haunted all year by the 1 inning. So yeah, it was more of a mental thing. It was never about like, hey, do this, do that, like because it was all about like get out of your head, like quit thinking about
Right.
mechanics so much on the mound, quit like letting the circumstances, what's called a strike or ball, affect you so much. Like just bear down and kind of what they say, like be the dog. That's like overall, like that's kind of the overall like idea of what is being said in the meetings or the mound visits.
Hell yeah. Roy?
Okay. So one thing that intrigues me when so on the Padres broadcast, we've got Mark Grant in the dug or the on the booth. And he sees when a pitcher is starting to lose their control, like they're not locating their fastball. And then he'll notice that they'll throw like 2 or 3 sliders in a row. And he'll say something about like, okay, you do this so you can make sure that you're landing with your weight in a certain spot or that you're doing a certain thing to try, and then that helps you feel your release point, and then the fastball comes back.
Yeah.
Um, is that something that you can relate to?
At times, yeah, I think there's truth in that. Because I mean, there were times this year where I did kind of resort to that. There was a pitch that like I felt like I could throw for a strike in any count at any moment, any given time in games. Particularly the slider, it happens to be, which was probably my highest strike pitch all year. But I mean, every guy's a little bit different. But there were times where I was able to reset. Now there were also times where it just so happened that I weren't really finding the zone with anything. And I mean, you take the good with the bad, but there were definitely lessons from both of them.
And that's
Okay,
something that you
so
really got to learn as you develop, to throw away those innings. And at the end of the, even if when they after they take you out, like, yeah, yeah, you lost it, but it's tomorrow's another day. You're going to have another start. You're still healthy. You're still going to pitch again. Um, you know, and I would see that sometimes. A couple times, I remember one game I watched, and I swear you threw almost an immaculate inning,
Yeah.
and I think he got out with a ground ball. I think the guy knocked it, grounded out for the third out, and the next inning you could not find the strike zone, and my heart is pouring, and I'm
Yeah.
screaming at the computer, not at you, but just like, oh, what
No, like
the,
just we're just like you just watch something so beautiful, like just get bad real quick.
and it would just be, but that's a part of development. Yeah, you're
Yeah,
still
it is.
learning. You're still learning yourself. You're still learning, your delivery. You're still learning as a player. And sometimes it just gets. And sometimes you just lose it.
Yeah, absolutely. That was the case this year. Is at times it would just happen.
well, consistency is the hardest part about
Yeah.
any sport. And I mean, something as inconsistent as baseball, as pitching, you're getting up, you're sitting down, you got to get up again, got a long inning, you've got to keep yourself active. And then the whole mental psychological thing of what's going on, the game situations. I'm sure it's easy to get kind of spiraled up, and then you've got to get pulled back in to get focused back up. Um,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
So you Darvish came out and did a rehab appearance with you guys, and you were there for that. Were you in Lake Elsinore last year when Joe Musgrove came up and pitched?
I was. Yeah, that was the first series of the year. We
So
were at Inland.
what was that like having a seasoned, like legit MLB veteran, all-star caliber player come into the dugout for a day?
Which one, Darvish or Musgrove?
Either one of them. I guess speak about Darvish since that's the more recent one.
That one was pretty cool. He was there all day too. He didn't just show up for an hour before the game and then like kind of show and go. I mean, he was legit there. Like, if I'm being honest, like, I mean, I won't ever let it happen again. But he was there before me, and
Right.
I was the one. I wanted. He was the one making the start.
So did you stay far away and try to give him all the space, or were you trying to ask him a few questions here and there?
No, I gave him his space. I was also trying to find my zone because I this was at a time where I had really just started like picking it up, going, and I was on kind of a little heater from especially after a dreadful month of April. So I mean, I was trying to just keep doing my thing and not let the fact that I'm not making the start. I'm coming out of the bullpen. I don't know when I'm going to be thrown out of the bullpen. Like derail me at all. Like I mean, there was a mental battle in that. It might seem so small, but I mean, it's like certainly a difference. Like sitting in the bullpen and then waiting until your number's called. Those guys are those bullpen guys are warriors, man. I mean, they get up in a moment's notice and they go. And us starters aren't used to that, if we're being honest. But no, I let him go about his day. He was actually, like I said, he was there. He was in the clubhouse. He was like interacting with guys. He was the catcher that was started, or Salas, yeah, Salas.
Yeah.
Before in the clubhouse, they were sitting at the table, like doing their own scouting report. Like it was good, and it was a great opportunity for me and all the guys in the clubhouse to be able to see how he's going to go about his day. And even what's even more impressive is how he went about his day in a high baseball game after, he's already got so many accolades and so much time in the show. It was just, so you could say kind of a reality check, because it's like, this guy's been doing it and he still does it, still has all the like details, all the small details locked in.
Yeah, he certainly could have just shown up and thrown, got there before game time, warm up, come in, go out. Like I watched that game, and it's one of those things where you watch what he does, not necessarily you don't need to talk to him much. You just watch what he does,
Yeah,
and that's telling more than
you can learn a lot by just watching.
Yeah,
you absolutely can.
And then he had a pretty good
the
spread
Musgrove
for you guys too. Yeah,
it was just a 2 day spread. It was, I think it was the day of the start, and then the next day. And
I
then
didn't hear about the next day.
If I'm not wrong, I think it was 2 days. I think the first day was both teams, and then the second day was us. Which, I mean, I know people were talking about him and how he fed basically both teams.
Right.
Like I said, I mean, it really doesn't get. That's about as good of a. How am I trying to word this? You can't set a better example than what he did coming in the clubhouse. Like if there's any example you could ever set, that would be standard issued front of the magazine. 100%.
And I watched him walk off the mound there, and he nodded over to it. You guys were playing Daytona, right? Yeah, and he nodded over and kind of said, "Thank you very much." He didn't have to do that. He could have just walked off the mound, but he thanked the competition, thank you for letting him be there, and I think he got lit up too. Like he was just throwing strikes, but he got one of the top big guys just crushed one. I think straight dead center.
Oh, sorry, yeah. I remember that one. I don't know what it is, but every rehab start I've seen, just it doesn't always seem to go the best for the rehab pitcher. I'm not sure if there's something to that. If the hitters are just trying to jump on them because they know that they're just going to be pounding the zone, because they're not there. I guess their main goal is to, hey, like this is one of my first games back. Like I'm not trying to do too much. Let's get in the zone and just let's start there, and then we can think about pitching in the league in 2 weeks, I guess.
Well, I think the strategy is don't ever get hurt, so you have to go on a rehab assignment. Just keep ringing that bell, and it's never going to be a problem.
Absolutely, but like the same thing is like you see those guys kind of get pieced up a little bit in the minors and on rehab starts, but then you see them go to the show a week later or 2 weeks later and they dominate.
Yeah,
it's almost like that's not a reflection of who they are. It's just like they were there just to be healthy, like log the innings and try and just get back into form.
Well, and that also tells me that some of those hitters down there in high A can still hit.
Absolutely. I'm a firm believer that throughout especially, I say all the minor leagues, low A all the way up to triple A, like guys are good. Like it's just more of a consistency thing, in my opinion. I think that guys are way more refined and they do it every single day, as opposed to in the big leagues they do. In minor leagues, you see the guys throwing 100 miles an hour. It's not all the nights whenever they're finding the zone, they're electric, and you're like, these guys, this guy could be a closer right now in the big leagues. And then you see him tonight where, take me, for example, some nights I threw really well, and then some I would just, some innings I would lose it. And that's, what you don't see at the big leagues. You see guys every single time they step on the field, they're performing at their peak level.
Well, you're definitely on your way. So let's talk about who were your roommates this year?
This year, let's see. I had quite a few. I had one consistent guy all year who stuck it out with me from the end of March all the way to the beginning of September. Very near and dear to my heart, Braden Nett. He was there with
Ray,
me all year.
love that kid. He is
We talked to him
he is
last offseason.
dominating right now in the Mexican
He
League.
is. He's the truth. He's as good as everybody thinks he is, and he'll prove to people whenever he kind of gets his first full season and is able to, throw 100+ innings, which he's going to. He's not just going to pop on the radar. He's going to jump on the radar.
It almost seemed like he needed to remind himself how good he is.
Yeah.
Certainly. I mean, he's just an overall genuine human being and great person and very like down to earth. So I mean, it would make sense that he's not going to say that he's as good as what he is, but he is like he's got electric stuff.
Yeah.
He really
All right,
does.
so you guys are in a quad there in Fort Wayne, right? So
we had three. We had three. So
okay.
it was me and Nett for majority of the beginning of the year. We didn't have a third roommate, and then I believe Sam Whiting came back up, and whenever he came back up, he moved into our apartment. So it was me, Nett, and Sam, and we were there up until Sam went to Double A, and when Sam went to Double A, the one and only Isaiah Lowe moved into our place, and then it was me, Nett, and Isaiah. So that was kind of the situation.
They just pick guys from the podcast and go, okay, next.
Yeah,
next,
yeah.
next.
Well, we hear the news like whenever somebody's coming up, right? And it's like, Isaiah? Me and Ned are like, absolutely. Like we're talking to a trainer. We're like, you got to put him in our apartment. You got to. Like it's Simone. Like we need another friend around here. Like, and we got him. He came to our place, and we had a fun little time there for the last month of the season, however long Zay was up there.
So when you guys have what downtime you get, what did you guys do to kind of unwind?
A lot of golf, a lot of golf. And then, there was actually a couple days, a couple different times, maybe I think it was twice that we went fishing instead.
All right.
That was more towards the end. That was more of like August and September area where we like experimented with fishing. I think we were kind of just worn out from golfing and like doing athletic stuff. I mean, at this point we're like 7, 8 months into grinding a sport nonstop. And then other than that, man, if we didn't golf or fish, I mean, it sounds kind of boring, but I mean, you just kind of hang out at the apartment all day and just enjoy like laying in bed and not having to be up out of the bed until 11, 11:30, and then just playing video games all day. There was a lot of peace in that as well.
What's your golf game looking like?
Fluctuates a lot. It depends. Am I shaking my irons or am I hitting them straight? Depends on which one that is. Right now, I think I figured out how to start hitting them straight more. But keep in mind, I've said that I've figured that out probably 8 or 9 different times in the past 3 years.
Okay. Are you
We'll
a bogey
see.
golfer or are you a little better than that?
I would say I'm probably a bogey golfer for sure.
Okay. All right. I'm the golfer of the group, so I always
Yeah.
have to ask those questions.
That's all right. I love it. I haven't played in a couple weeks. It's been cold out here in North Carolina the
Oh, I
last
bet.
week or so.
Yeah, it's about the time of year you gotta put them away for a while.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's the off season now. What have you changed about your routine, about your to prepare for next season? Because
Yeah.
110 innings across 23 games last year was a lot, but I know you want to ramp that up probably another 20, 30, 40% next year.
Absolutely. I mentioned that to somebody towards the end of the year when we were talking about 22 starts, and I was like, my goal going into next year is like, can I get 28, 30 starts? I don't know how many opportunities I'll have to get a start. I mean, it depends if we're on a 5-man rotation all year or 6-man like that. You got to take in all those things, but my mind was already on like, can I get more next year? Not necessarily innings, but like, let me get 28, 30 starts next year, and the innings they'll come with that. If I'm out there and I'm doing what I need to do, that's 5 innings for 6 more starts, 6 to 8 more starts. Like, I mean, that's a lot of innings to add on. But if I'm being brutally honest, the one goal in terms of on the field besides just giving you a general answer of refining everything, because obviously I'm in the business of just getting better at everything that I'm doing because you need to constantly get better at it, I guess. The one thing that I'm really going to make sure that I'm not doing next year is the walks. Because like I said, it never felt like a physical thing. It always felt mental. It always felt very mental because, like, it's like Donovan said, it's like he's sitting here watching a game and it's like almost an immaculate inning in one inning. And then 10, 15 minutes later, I'm out there and I'm giving up a 4 spot in the inning. It's like, why am I walking the bases loaded? What am I doing wrong? It's not mechanical because obviously the mechanics from the inning before were working. So I think it's literally just starting up here with the mentality, the mindset, and then kind of letting that like in your head manifest and just grow and grow. And I think that's when it starts becoming mechanical after it's already manifested and grown in my head. So yeah, we're gonna certainly been working on just staying more locked in on the mound. That's really all that boils down to, and I'll prove it this next season for sure. I have no doubt in that at all. And like I said, I'm said earlier that I was kind of in between like a curveball and a sweeper, right? Well, that's something else in the off season. I'm just trying to like get better at those things. Like that's something else that to give you an idea that I'm trying to work on that. And then, even in the gym, like in the gym, like I'm also trying to get as strong as I can. I'm not necessarily trying to gain a whole bunch of weight this off season. I'm trying to gain 5 to 10 pounds, but can it be 5 to 10 pounds of muscle? So when I get to, the September 8th of 2025, and I've got, let's say, 27 starts on the season. And the season was over at that time last year, but let's say I'm in Double A. I got 2 more weeks in the season. Like, can I make it those 2 more weeks and then also playoffs? Because I think that's going to be the biggest thing that's going to allow me to do what I did this year and plus more. It's going to be the weight room for sure. So there's a lot of things.
Now you
Well,
say
I'm calling
weight
it
room,
right
but
now.
it's not just weights, it's mobility, it's
Everything,
athleticism type of
everything,
movements, right?
everything. You name it. Like, it's trying to be as explosive as I can. I'm not just going in there squatting the house. There's certain days where I'm trying to, like deadlift heavy or squat heavy. But a lot of the in between stuff is like you said, Roy, is the jumps, the mobility, the stretches, the movement stuff that I'm doing. All that like ties in together.
I saw Joe Musgrove a couple of years ago in his offseason. He was posting all these videos and he had those I think they call them Indian clubs, and he was doing all these different movements to kind of activate different parts of his body. And like, you know, lifting pump and iron is pretty linear. And the movements you do on a baseball field aren't. Yeah. And it
Not
seems
at
like
all.
so often somebody's injuring themselves because they're making an awkward play or they stepped off the mound funny or something like that. So you mentioned going deep into games. A lot of that is efficiency. Are you trying to attack guys to strike them out, or are you sometimes seeking contact, trying to get pop flies or trying to get ground balls?
That's a tricky one. Because like the ego wants to say like trying to strike guys out because
Yeah, yeah,
strikeout.
but then you see these guys that are out there throwing a Maddox that are 95 pitches and they're throwing a
Oh
complete
yeah.
game. A lot of that is because they're getting outs after one, two, three pitches.
Well, that's the wiser mentality that I would have to route to, and would be that like yeah. I would put it like this. I think the mindset next year is going to be every single AB that starts. Can I get him out with this pitch? Can I get him out with this pitch? And then if you find yourself with two strikes, if you get 2 strikes on the guy, if he fouls it off twice or he swings and misses, that's when the mentality shifts. It's not just can I get him to get weak contact for an out. Like I want to sit him down. And I think that's probably going to be. I think that's a really good mindset to have. For me, it is. Like here, like take all the pitches, the first 2 pitches of the AB, try and get them out. If I got you 0-2, okay, now I'm gonna try and strike you out. I'm gonna try and throw a disgusting pitch, and maybe he puts it in play. That's fine. If it's an out, it's an out. I'll take it.
Is that the
Certainly,
kind
I
of
do
thing
want to
that
go
Ash
deeper.
is that the kind of thing that Ash has worked with you in the past? And so
Oh,
he's
for
been with
sure.
you in Lake Elsinore and then in Fort Wayne. The Padres just announced their major league coaching staff, but we haven't heard what the minor league stuff's going to be. Do you think there's a chance? Well, I don't want to be presumptive, but I'm assuming you might be starting off in Double A. Is there a chance he would be the pitching coach in Double A? You think?
I have no
Yeah, no,
clue.
you don't know any of that, but it's kind of playing.
I
Would you rather that he moves with you, or is it nice to have a fresh voice after having the same pitching coach for a couple years?
I certainly would love it if he was in Double A in this upcoming year. Without a doubt. I mean, that's somebody that you know. It's no different than being in the show, I guess. I mean, you have a pitching coach, and more often than not, they're there year after year, right? Besides when you go through coaching changes in years, but I mean, for the most part, do you expect a coach to come in at the big league level? I would assume, and you expect them to be there for at least a few years, to like build that culture and everything. So when you look at it that way, I would really hope that and love for him to be there because he's already built that culture and that foundation of friendship as a coach, and even as a friend to all of us guys, all of us position players and pitchers. Like it goes both ways. He's not just a pitcher friendly coach. Like he's a great clubhouse guy. And but I mean, if he happened to not be there, I can't let it make or break me. Like I mean, he'll still be somebody that I'll go to and talk to for sure. I built that relationship with him is where he'll always be somebody I kind of lean on if I need some advice or anything. But at the same time, I mean, I would build a new foundation with whoever I'm working with to try and see if they can help me become the best version of myself at that moment in time. Because that's all we're chasing, man. We're just chasing to be the best we can be every single day. Like you guys are trying to be the absolute best you can be for the Friars on the farm, everything you do, and even just outside in your everyday lives.
Day
It's no
job,
different for me. Like
life
I'm
in
trying
general.
to, yeah, in life in general, I'm trying to be the best baseball player I can be, but I'm also trying to be the best son, brother, and friend that I can be. And like these are
Growing,
things
growing
that
in the game, growing in life. Absolutely. At 55, I'm the same way. I try to get a little bit better every day. And I'm calling it right now. I would not doubt if I bet you're going to be in if you're healthy this year, Arizona Fall League. I'm
in
calling it.
2025,
Oh hell yeah.
I would love to give that another crack. I wish I could have done it last year, 2023 in the fall. I really wish I could have. If the opportunity's there, I 100% will jump on it. I do. I'm much more confident in myself as a player than I was in 2023 at that time. So for sure, if there's an opportunity, I'll be there.
Definitely. All right. So hey, we really appreciate you coming on. It's been too long, dude. It has been way
Absolutely,
too
man.
long.
Way too long.
Let's have some fun here. We got a little bit of lightning round. Roy, you
Let's
came up
do
with
it.
this question. Hit it.
Okay, so you're a West Columbus High School Viking.
Yep.
Shout out to Cerro Gordo, North Carolina.
Shout out Sarah Gordo.
Can you name the only player drafted straight out of Cerro Gordo to make it to the majors so far?
Do you guys know this?
I got an answer in front of me. I think there's a couple
Okay,
other
well,
guys that made it
I'm gonna
that went to
say
college and then made it,
okay,
but
but
I'm
high
talking about
school.
drafted
Yeah,
straight out of there.
I think I got you on this. It's either Donnell Nixon or Otis Nixon.
Yeah, it's Donnell. Yeah.
Donnell Nixon. Okay, Otis was his son. So Donnell was the one who made it.
Yeah, I think they're brothers. But yeah,
Brothers. Okay.
Otis went to college. He got drafted out of college
Okay.
and wound up having the longer major league career. But I saw the name Donnell Nixon in it. I used to collect baseball cards back in the day, and I
Yeah.
probably have a couple of his baseball cards in that big box I have in
Oh,
storage
hey, by
somewhere.
the way, I just the Baldwin Brooks Baldwin, he actually got me into the card collecting scene, and I've been
Oh
doing that
yeah.
like the last couple of weeks.
It's so different now than what it was when I was a kid. They were worthless. They were just pieces of
Yeah.
cardboard. You read the back, you read the stats, and I would sort them every which way, and come up with my dream team. I'd sort them by number, sort them alphabetically, and so they all got so tattered from use and abuse. Where now every card you're looking at, like, okay, what's this worth? What's this worth?
Yep.
All right, I'm going to put
Everything's
this in
super
this
protected.
hermetically sealed plastic
Yep.
seal.
Yep.
Nobody can ever touch it. Don't even breathe on it.
They take it serious, man. And it's an expensive hobby too, and I didn't realize that. Like I really didn't realize it until maybe about a month ago. Like I'm not gonna lie to you guys. Like maybe a week or so ago, I bought this. I went to the card store. I think it was last week. I spent $200 on a 2023 Bowman Chrome box, and lo and behold, thankfully, I made my money back. But I pulled like a signed Max Scart card. And but yeah, it's like it's just an expensive hobby, and I didn't realize that. And it's
Have
also
you
very serious.
You
have you had
faced
the
him.
opportunity to sign your own cards?
Pardon, I didn't hear you.
Have you found your own baseball cards? Have they had you
No,
autograph cards or
no.
any of that stuff?
I personally, I haven't, I haven't myself like pulled my own card or anything, but I can say my dad has about maybe 20 of my cards, and not just 20 of my auto cards. He has like 20 of my signed cards, and all of them are graded. Like he's already sent them in and had them all graded. He's got a nice little collection of me, all the guys that I know that I grew up with playing. He's not really a card collector. He just keeps the guys that are from the area.
Yeah. You
Nice.
faced
Well,
Max this year, didn't you?
I did, yeah. He was up there. I want to say it was either early part of August, somewhere along then. I mean, he's a competitor, dude. He's good.
Yeah.
all right. Well, we
Okay.
want to say hello to your dad, to Jerry. He's out there on Twitter. He talks to us from time to time.
Absolutely.
So nice checking in with him from time to time. So, what is your Chipotle order?
Uh, it changed. It changed whenever probably the first week in November. It's actually funny you asked that. So I usually went with like a standard like steak bowl. You know, you get the rice and everything, all the toppings you want on it. But Ethan Salas put me on this new. Well, I don't know if it was new, but I didn't know that Chipotle ever had smoked brisket. I didn't know that.
Mm.
I don't know if I'm the only one who didn't know that, but to me, whenever I found out, whenever he told me, I was like, okay, so this is new, huh? But he told me about it, and we went in there and we got a smoked brisket quesadilla. Just that simple. And you know, you just get like the three little sides. You can put like sour cream, guac, whatever you want, and kind of to each their own what you do. But that's my new go-to order at Chipotle.
Now,
And
on
actually,
the
I went
bowl,
on the
on the bowl,
bowl.
do you get all the veggies on there, or are you just straight protein and rice?
Protein and rice. I'll get some lettuce on there, and I'll certainly do some corn. I don't go crazy, but I'll always do corn for sure. I actually went to Chipotle this past Saturday, and here in North Carolina, and I was like, hey, do you guys have smoked brisket quesadillas? And they were like, we can't make a quesadilla unless you do an online order. And I was like, I just kind of stood there for a second. And I was like, you know, how sometimes you get a little befuddled. I was just sitting there, and I was like, what? You can't do it unless it's online? And I was like, all right. So I had to like go on the fly. So I went burrito, steak, rice, sour cream, corn. And I think that's all I put on there. So that was my most recent Chipotle order.
Okay. What's your game start ritual?
You guys are gonna love this one. So you guys, let's see. I'm not sure if it's you guys or it's another group, but it's the Mad Friars on Twitter. They always go and try out spots in the minor league cities.
Yeah, that's the Mad Friars guys. Yeah.
Yeah.
So those guys do that, and I don't know if they know the spot, but there was a spot right down the road from our apartments. It was called Sarah's Family Diner. It was a full like presidential theme diner. Like the menus were all like you open them up. It's all like constitutional. It's kind of odd, but it's a little cool. And you open it up to like presidential breakfasts, and it's got all the president's breakfast. And I can't remember for to save my life what president it was that I would always get his breakfast on game days. But I would wake up about 10:30 every game day, every Wednesday, because I was starting on Wednesdays. I would go right down the road, like a 2 minute drive to Sarah's Diner by 11:30 by the time I'm ready. And I just can't remember the president's names. I want to say it was like Andrew Jackson's breakfast, something like that. Something along the lines of that. It was like it was some random old president who was like, it was famous. It was famous. He's on currency, something like that. But it was a country style steak with the sausage gravy on top of it, and then you get like three eggs that come with it, and then you get a side of grits. You guys know what grits are?
Oh yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
So like, and then you get like a piece of toast or biscuit, whatever you want. But whatever it was, I would always go to that place because it just kind of reminded me of being back here in North Carolina, like the straight Southern food. It kind of gave me that kind of feeling. So that was my routine. And then after that, I would just honestly go back to the apartment and play MLB The Show. And they came out, so they give minor league players their real 99 cards that you can play with on like the online modes with your online teams. So I had this was this a little advanced into the year, but once my card came out, that just got added into the routine. I would go to Sarah's, I'd have that presidential breakfast. I would come back to the apartment and I would just play an online game and use my guy as a starter and just like face another guy online and just try and like absolutely carve with my guy online and be like, this is what I'm gonna do tonight with my pitches.
That's gonna
You
be
kind of how I
amazing
went
to
about
see
it.
yourself in a
Yeah,
video game. I mean, I can't imagine that.
you gotta see it and believe it, and then if you're confident enough to breathe it out, I promise you it'll happen. So like I was sitting there envisioning it.
I thought I saw Vladimir Guerrero kind of does that with the MLB The Show. That's how he kind of preps for pitchers, is he plays them on the MLB The Show.
Maybe I know that Blake Snell would spend a lot of time playing video games as well. He was a big video gamer, especially like him. I don't know. Well, I assume MLB The Show, but like Fortnite and games like that. You know,
Yeah.
a lot of us in baseball, we play a lot of video games. It's kind of how we pass our time because we're not on a
Yeah.
very normal schedule as most people. Our free time is, a few hours in the morning up until about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Then after that, it's kind of like 10:30 at night, and it's kind of back to it the next day. So, what can you do besides play video games and just try and enjoy what time you do have off?
Yeah.
So your breakfast routine, I guess you could consider that a superstition, but do you have any other superstitions about like numbers or colors or you need to have a certain number of packs of gum in your left pocket or something like that?
Yeah, I had. I'm not big on superstitions. I guess you could say I had one. My only one was that I have a few different gloves that I use in games, and one of them was a red glove. And for some reason, it felt like every time I wore that red glove in a game, it felt like the absolute worst game ever. Like that's how it felt. And it's funny because there was one game once I started heating up after the month of April. By the way, I was wearing the red glove my first start of the year against Lake County in April, where I didn't make it out the first inning, and my only out came from an outfield assist. Thought my dogs were going crazy, but but yeah, I wore that red glove. Didn't make it out the first few months, maybe a month or so. I'm not sure how long it was later, but once I started heating up and like finding the groove, I came out with the red glove, and I just told myself I was like, I looked at the glove before I left the locker, and I was like, you know what, like, come on, get real. Like, it's not the glove. I'm about to just wear this to prove it to myself that like, come on, like, get real. Like, the glove does not matter that much. I walk out. I'm walking out to the bullpen, and Thomas Esch sees me with the glove on. He's like, "You're wearing that thing?" And I was like, "Yeah." And watch, I'm gonna do well tonight. I was like, "I'm gonna go out here and shove, and it's not gonna be a problem." And then I started shoving with it, and then I wore it every single road game just because it matched the red uniforms. And but like, yeah, that was kind of the overall point of that was that was my only superstition. Then I kind of like, I guess in a weird way, like I faced that fear. I was like, come on, like it's not the glove's fault. Like let's just go out here and do it to prove to yourself that you can like it's all like up here in our heads.
Yeah. Definitely that's mental exercise if it's just like that. And have an etch
It
go
is.
like, really? You're gonna use that glove? He's like, yeah, I'm gonna post. That's
Absolutely.
excellent.
That's kind of how it was.
Before we move on, I've been to Fort Wayne. I've had the chance to go to Parkview Field. Hopefully, that's your last experience at Parkview Field, and you're
Yeah.
on to bigger and better things. But could you give a shout out to some of the folks there at Parkview Field that were helping you out? I mean, I know the Swirly is an absolute master
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
of
yeah.
a clubby.
Yeah, I'm gonna pull my phone out just so I'm not so I can search up the name so I'm not forgetting anybody.
Because what I mean, the ballpark is beautiful. It's right there in downtown,
Ballpark is
and then
yeah, unreal. Like, it
but
doesn't get
the
much better.
but you got the groundskeepers that do such a great job. You got the broadcast folks. You got all the people in the front office from Michael Nutter all the way on down.
Yeah, so I'll start from the top. I'll say start with Nutter. The guy makes a really big point early on. I feel like with the Tin Caps, at least he did last year. And when I got there, all these people were spoken so highly of. and just Fort Wayne in general, whenever you're at the complex, especially whenever I was like 18, 19, and I was nowhere near Fort Wayne, right? I would always hear about how nice Fort Wayne is. Like they always get a lot of fans, all of this, right? And then I finally experienced it this year, and it's like, okay, so Mike Nutter, very hands-on with the team, and just like not just hands-on, but like in terms of like telling us what to do. It was never that. It was just more about like care, like anything that he could do for us, and like, and they made it a very strong point early on of how they get a lot of fans and how they pride themselves on being a staple of the community of Fort Wayne. And that show, like I mean, it shows every single year. Like you can't make this stuff out. It's a high A game, and it's you almost get sellouts all the time. So they're definitely like they're putting the community first. Swirly, like it doesn't get any better. You can't ask for a better clubby. He does whatever you need, and above that, he's a great person. He's a friend. I think that's the biggest thing. When I could go and name all these people, but I think the biggest thing that separates them is it's not just it's not people that you work with. He's not my clubhouse manager. Mike Nutter is not the GM for the affiliate team that I'm playing on. Like these are like real relationships, and then it seems like especially like Swirly, it seems like these are friendships. Like I mean, I would always speak to Nutter. There was another guy, Keith. I think his name's Keith Winters, ground screw guy, head ground screw at Fort Wayne. Like he does so much. He takes such exceptional care of that ball field. And you guys have been like y'all have seen it. Like I mean, it's incredible.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't get much better than that ballpark, and even like the like field level, everything. They put so much time into it, and it goes a long way. So, it was big for a lot of us guys, pretty much the whole team, to have like relationships and just go out of our way to like speak to these people because they do much more than you would realize. Way more than you would ever think.
Yeah.
And then
They
like
got it all
you
made
can
up
even
right now with the Winter Wonderland or whatever you want to call all the lights.
yeah, I've been seeing that. I've been seeing that from John Nolan's Instagram. By the way, that's another great person. The guy who's doing all of our commentary all year, John Nolan. Him and there was another guy. I believe he was an intern. I don't want to say intern, but he was certainly here, fresh out of school. His name was Jack. He would do some of the games when John couldn't be there. Just those two guys, though, like the media in Fort Wayne, like much more. Like it was Fort Wayne's kind of like a minor league version of being in the big leagues.
Yeah.
I would think of like I've obviously never been there, but like that's what it feels like. You have media like news channels, like the paper, the reporters are coming to like talk to you after games and stuff. They're just all good people. Like it's like it's never like anything obnoxious, never anything rude. Like I don't think I could find one bad thing to say about the people of Fort Wayne and the Tin Caps organization. Like I don't even like you could probably try and give me the only way I could do it is if you try to give me $100 million, and I'd like think of the most minuscule thing, be like, oh, like our shower pressure weren't hard enough,
Right.
something.
That's an issue. Fort Wayne is one of the last remaining minor league cities that actually televise their games locally. So everywhere else you go, they're not locally televised. And I believe John Conniff told me that it's like one of the last cities that treat your team as not only the perennial professional team, but you treat it like the majors. You have the guys coming from from the news, from the local news, and they come and talk to you guys. Can you talk about some roommates? We have a couple of questions here.
Shoot, man, I'll answer everything to the best of my knowledge.
Who's the funniest roommate? Funniest teammate, that is.
Oh, well, those are two different questions because funniest roommate is certainly Isaiah, just his personality. That's the funniest roommate. Net's pretty funny too. Don't let that discredit Net in any way. Like you got to remember, like all these guys are funny. Funniest teammate though. This one I'm gonna give you two for this one because one was here later in the year, but Wyatt Hoffman, Hoffy was he's undeniably like one of the funniest people I've met that I played with. So he would be one of them, and another one would be it would either be Henry Baez or it would be Miguel Cienfuegos. So like Cienfuegos, another mentor. just like a mentor like I don't even know. He just like mentors everybody that he comes across with. He's got that kind of yeah, I don't know. I don't even know. Like that's what he gives off. Like he's just another one of those great people you talk about. But yeah,
Is he the guy
Cienfuegos,
that came back from pitching in Australia? He got signed
yes.
out of pitching in the Australian League.
Mhm.
Boy, that I'm sure he's got some stories because what is he
Oh,
from
for sure. Yeah,
Canada?
he's from Canada. He's got an incredible journey to where he is today. If you guys ever have the chance to speak with him, please do ask him just to walk you through his long journey of how he is to where he is today. It might take 45 minutes of a segment on the podcast, but I will say, it'll be worth it because it's a lot, and he's just he's another one of those guys that I talk about of like you, Darvish, when you know how some people set examples by what they do.
Yeah.
His story is an example, but also his everyday the way he goes about himself. That's an example, He's just another one of those guys, and you run into him all the time. You just got to be, I guess, aware enough to like take it in.
Yeah, it's got to be hard. So I have a desk job, so I can show up. I can be in a good mood and a bad mood, whatever, and I just go about my job. But when you're in a clubhouse like that, you're around whatever 25, 30 other guys, and you got to show up and post, and it's got to be hard just to be the consistent same, keep that same level for everybody because everybody's kind of has
Yeah.
a role in that room.
Yeah, everybody does. I don't know, like it's certainly tough. Like, I mean, I won't sit here and lie to you guys and say like, oh, like it's never like that's not even a question or concern. Like, because obviously it is. We're humans. Like, like you spend enough time around people, like you start getting annoyed very easily.
Yeah.
Like, I mean that's all real stuff. But I mean, like I don't really know how to necessarily like respond or give the right answer because there is no right answer. I'm not trying to give a right answer, but
Right.
it's just like like I don't know how we do it, but we do it.
Yeah.
I guess it just comes from experience. We've all been doing it for so long. It's been being a part of a team for so long that you kind of just I guess you learn. And
I guess
obviously,
that's part of being a professional.
yeah, absolutely. And like you see it even at the highest levels with every single professional league, all the way down to high school. Like I mean, egos are problems, and they can like kind of have a team not be there to their full capacity of what they can be. Right. I mean, you run into those challenges at the highest level, then we certainly deal with them as well. But I mean, it's never anything crazy. It's just like, maybe we as a collective, as a team, we are, we're whining too much when things aren't going our way. Me being one of the ring leaders, like I was one of the first people all year to get on the umpire, like have something to say, like if I didn't get a strike call I wanted, right? But that just comes from like, you develop and you learn. Like going into next year, I have to learn how to harness the competitiveness.
Right.
So I mean, we're all learning as we go. I mean, we all certainly we fall short sometimes. We pick each other up. That's the biggest thing. Like even if you have those moments, we're all going to fall. We realize that no matter what the situation may be. Like we'll always be there though. We'll pick each other up. I think that's where it comes from.
All right. So let's crush some egos here. Who's the worst dressed?
The worst dressed, Net, great Net.
Ah!
That's an easy one, dude. It's not even because he's just the worst dressed. It's just because he don't care. He'll roll out of bed and just like put on a red T-shirt with some black shorts, and that's what he's wearing for today. That's
I
just
can totally
that's how
imagine
he
that.
is.
I don't know why.
Who snores?
Well, I mean, Net.
Net.
All these answers might be Net.
We're just gonna write net into everything.
Right, Net and everything. Well, hopefully somebody else will be an answer for these. It might be me. We'll see.
Okay. So let's finish up. If you had one song to listen to for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Man, that's tough. That's tough. I mean, you go through phases of like music that you're liking. So I mean, it's hard to like sit here. It's kind of it feels wrong to give you like an answer of one song. It just doesn't seem right. But if I have to give you one right now, it'd probably be Mind Over Matter. It's by a group called Young the Giant.
Yeah.
That's what I'm big. That's what I'm big on right now. It's disrespectful to a lot of other songs, but that's mine right now.
All right, that's a fair answer.
I'm gonna live in the right now. That's what I'm gonna do.
Dude,
That's all we can do.
That's all we can
absolutely. Jagger, it's been way too long since we've had you on, dude. I watched almost just about every start this year, and just I was just so stoked that you were healthy, that you got through, saw a lot of growth. The future is absolutely bright with you. And I tell you, I think you're gonna get another crack at the Arizona Fall League this year. If not, you're definitely gonna be posting up in Double A, and really bringing that competitive juice to the higher levels of minor leagues, and you're well on your way to becoming a major league player. We really appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much.
I appreciate you guys, and yeah, all that stuff will be great. But like we just said, I'm gonna live in the moment. I'm gonna worry about what I need to do tonight to get better in my career, what I need to do tomorrow, and the rest of the week. And then if I keep doing that, I mean, all that other stuff will take care of itself. I'll be ready for whatever's thrown my way. Already dealt with a few things this far into the career, but hey, we survive in advance, and I'm still here, still kicking, and just can't thank you guys enough for having me back on. It has been way too long.
Yeah,
absolutely. So thank you, Donovan. Thank you, Roy.
All right, thank you.
Boom.
Boom. Got it right there.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks so much.
Seriously,
That was great.